Hi everyone, I'm Zach, and I fucking love movies! And I'm here to review Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. This is the latest from Madman filmmaker George Miller, and the now 5th movie in the Mad Max franchise. But now the first one not focusing on Max. We are instead focusing on the true standout character of the previous Mad Max Fury Road, Furiosa. And I'll just say right now, everyone pretty much agrees, Mad Max Fury Road is a real miracle of a movie, a true peak of action filmmaking. And a lot of what Fury Road was doing was just really building off of what George Miller was always doing with the Mad Max movies, trying to illustrate action, illustrate character through these great near worthless action set pieces, and especially really up the ante with Road Warrior. And Fury Road is kind of doing a lot of that and pushing that envelope and then blowing it up with Diesel. And that movie absolutely scenes. It is a majestic spectacle of action filmmaking, if ever there was. One of the best movies of the 21st century, possibly ever. And the fact that George was even gonna follow it up and do another Mad Max movie was a real daunting feat, I think. But I think there has been some criticisms of some well-argued criticisms that I've read about how even trying that is an impossibility, or how Furiosa existing the way that it is and the way that it looks may even take away some of the novelty of Fury Road. But I could not disagree more for that, because Furiosa is clearly not trying to be Fury Road again. They know they can't just do it again, and George got a lot of the same crew back together. You have costume designer Jenny Bevan doing all of these great stuff. The production designer and Margaret Sixel is back in the editing booth, and it's basically it's the same team again, but they're not doing Fury Road again. They know they can't do the same thing twice. Nice. So what they do instead is a really much more classical style of a real Vista-driven epic. This is I was very if you're expecting something like Fury Road, where it's just constant movement, constantly on the edge of your heels, you really should not expect something like this. What we have instead is a much more patient movie. It's a much more intimate movie than probably any of the Mad Max movies since the first one. This is a very, very character focused. So it follows Furiosa as a child, when she was taken away by her home, her place of abundance, and she's taken to Chris Hemsworth, who plays Dr. Dementis. Something I love about all of these Mad Max movies, and really George Miller movies entirely, is that he has such a gift for naming characters. You have characters here named the People Eater, and a Dr. Dementis, as I said, and Rectus Erectus, and Scrotus, and Toe Jam. And I kept kind of waiting, hey, is Lord Humongous gonna make a cameo appearance just because? That'd be funny. But Furiosa is we see for a while, a good chunk of this movie is focusing on Furiosa as a child, before she's eventually grows up into Anya Taylor-Joy, who's now playing Furiosa. Who I think, if you had anybody who could really channel Charlize Theron, there's no better person you would pick than Anya Taylor-Joy. She's so, she doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue, but she speaks marvelous words with her eyes. like that. Anya's eyes are some of the best in the game. She's very cat-like, very movie quality eyes. You really want a set of eyes like hers. And a lot of what Furiosa goes through when she's like being effectively enslaved by Dementis as a child. You really feel a lot of like the anger and the frustration and the lot of where the desperation comes from that you saw in Furiosa with Fury Road. And what's because like I think like ways that and the lengths that Furiosa goes to explore where Furiosa came from, that all like it really does enrich all that she does in Fury Road and how she acts in Fury Road, because there was always a lot of like implied and suggested baggage, like clearly, like even just based on her artificial arm, and you always were asking where does this come from, where does all this happen, and you see like how not just like the severities of struggles that she goes with, but like the absolute bastards that she is fighting against. And let me tell you, Dr. Dementis here is such a big bastard. Like they made such a great over the top villain that you just really want like you just see this guy in one scene, you're like, oh yeah, you gotta see this guy get revenged at. and Chris Hemsworth is so great in this. This is honestly, I think, the best he has ever been. If you only know him for Thor, you're really sort of not really sort of underselling what kind of range this guy has. And yeah, like Dementis is a very big it's a very big performance. Like he's like really playing to the Chiefs seats, like ready, steady, go, and it's like just always going big. But like there are brief pauses where you can really see what kind of what kind of person he is and why he does these sort of things. And like you sort of get the idea that he remembers how things were before the collapse, and maybe he had a family, maybe he did something to that family, who knows. But and you also see how self-destructive he is without being very obvious in how that is. It's a great performance. Like I think he really did kind of become the standout too, and it's not like Anya is slouching either. Like I heard like she talked about how like the performance was a little lonely, but lonely to film, because like she really just mostly does have her face to work with. But again, like she's definitely up to the task. She's definitely delivering a lot of like what Charlize was doing, a lot of that underbelly of like desperation and frustration that Charlize had under the surface. And here it's like really brought out more often than not. And a lot of where this movie goes, like, again, I wasn't expecting a deliberate 5-act structure. Like there's like actual story, there's actual like chapter markers too, and a lot of where these goes, and like how it sort of does a lot of deliberate world building. Like there's even like world historians that travel with Dementis, and it's like this like fucking Genghis Khan style like biker war barons. It's insane. It's insane. And like you get, again, as far as like the action goes and how visually it goes, you get, it absolutely delivers. It's not quite as often, not nearly as often as in Fury Road, but when it does deliver, it's more Fury Road stuff. Like how can you complain so much? Although I would say that there is a much more noticeable like digital sheen to it. I wonder if like George, especially because he's like pushing 80 years old, if he was like, okay, we did Fury Road, but now we're not gonna do Fury Road on hard mode again. We're gonna like we're gonna like make it easier chomp, because this is a completely different beast from Fury Road, and it's all the better for it. And like again, when it delivers these like very elaborately and elegantly staged, multi-phased action sequences. There's one especially like around like the middle or 2/3 mark. It's phenomenal. Like some of the best like big, huge cars, these wild like throwing flames, explosives, these wicked stunts. It's more of the juice. It's more of like what we love about Fury Road and like all these Mad Max movies. And these are some great standouts of like the entire series. Like no one's doing it like George Miller. And man, and yeah, and like again, this was made by a man who was like 79 years old, and like, you know, I heard he really wants to do something else with Max, in like another movie after Furiosa, and God willing, he's alive. He's still alive long enough to do this. I would love that because man, he's one of the best, absolutely one of the best, and yeah, it's so fun. It's fun. It's fascinating, and it's just so exceptionally well made. Like even if it's like some of the like green screen and some digital shots look a bit dodgy, it has some like fantastic show, and it still has fantastic shots. Like my god, that river of shell casings that was like washing over Hemsworth, that's the good stuff. And you have these like amazing vistas that's like, this is why I go to the movies. And also there's also some like really interesting stuff that they do with like some recurring characters. Like they do a really cool thing with Immortan Joe here, where you don't get that distinctive, that like roaring growl behind his voice. You only get that one time, because most of the time he's like talking, he's effectively with his war council, where he's not like projecting to the masses. He's not on the war path. You see how he's more of a tactician, the more tactician side of Joe. And I think the choice with the sound design of how his voice came out was a noticeable but very excellent choice. It really gave some more insight in like not just how Miller and crew were like doing Joe, sort of like doing Joe again, but like mixing things up with him, but also like how Joe like projects himself to those closest to him. And I thought that was it's filmmaking choices like that really make me think about, you know, the world that it's creating. And again, there's a lot of choices like that, and especially in like the choices of colors too. Like man, like the reds here look great. There's a great shot of Hemsworth just like basking in like blood red mist. Fantastic. Man. Again, this is like so like even if it's like a little too different for you and compared to Fury Road, or like do you think there's no topping Fury Road? This movie absolutely delivers everything that we loved about Fury Road, and it's just in its own different stylistic approach. Like a real shifting gears. I feel like this is a much more classical style of pacing. Like again, and even at least in terms of how each scene is paced and how each shot is paced. There's a lot of like really effective like there's some effective like clean one shots, but also there's not as much as like effective like center punch framing, or the speed ramping and the amount of shot lengths. Again, it's a completely different animal to Fury Road. And I saw really good film critic you should follow, Brendan Hodges. He actually likened this in comparison to Fury Road as a double album, where like Fury Road is like punchy, it's to the point, and Furiosa is much more experimental, a little more vulnerable in that sense, and much more emotionally invested. And I was really emotionally invested in what was happening. Again, probably not that much since the first Mad Max. Again, because this is much more of a character study instead of just like seeing how a character acts, at least in the forefront. And yeah, it was absolutely, it's absolutely cinematic, absolute. This is why we go to the movies, and it's so fun. It's 2.5 hours long. That flies by. I honestly could have watched more. Man, the highs of this movie are just so damn good, and I don't know why anyone doubted. Why would anyone doubt George Miller? He is so, he made me care about tap dancing penguins. That's how good this man is, and he's I think if he's got another Mad Max movie, I hope it comes soon, because we really got to find a way to make this guy live forever, if only for Hideo Kojima's sake, because that man is God. Yeah. So I think this deserves at the very least a light 9 out of 10. This is I still do prefer Fury Road overall, but like, this is really fucking good. This is really great. I want to go back. I have to go back and see the road. Like between this and Dune 2, like, people just yearn for the desert. And yeah, actually, comparing this to Dune 2, if Dune 2's epic is more in a biblical sense, I feel like Furiosa is an epic in the way that a Shakespearean play is, like one of the great history plays. Like, but instead of the fall of a great king and why his like reign was bad and terrible and all that, this is a rise of a Praetorian that would like usurp that king. And yeah, thought it's amazing. Everything about it was marvelous. I had very, very little complaints, but if anything, again, it was fantastic. Also, this is 2024 has been a really fantastic year for blockbusters, like Dune 2. Yeah, Dune 2. Like, 2 weeks ago, we had Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which was stellar, and this really just knocked it out of the park. We're not even in June yet. Like, this is amazing. This has been amazing. I'm very excited. Can't wait to see what else we got this year. It's gonna be a good one. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. Cannot recommend it highly enough. Run, do not walk. Actually, don't run. Drive your souped-up Interceptor. Drive your big monster trucks. By the way, Dementis is a monster truck, and he absolutely gets a lot of juice out of that. Like, something big, dumb, and fun about monster trucks. I don't know. But yeah, that was my review of Furiosa. I absolutely loved it. I'm betting you will love it too. And so comment, like, subscribe, please share. What's your favorite Mad Max movie? Is it if it's beyond Thunderdome? Feel free to explain why. Mad Max and Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. George Miller is the god, and I hope he makes movies that I get to watch, because I got a lot of movies to watch, and I hope you do too. And I will see you later.